All right, I'm showing 2 after 12, so we will get this going. I appreciate everybody joining us today. These are a couple of really amazing solutions that we're going to see today. Our first presenter is Josh Massey, and he is with Carepool out of Madison, Wisconsin. Josh was actually a participant in a startup contest that we held at our first ever Tech Fest in Cincinnati back in October, where he competed with 2 other companies in a kind of a startup pitch, if you will, pitched his idea, and it's an amazing idea. So I wanted to get Josh back on here to talk about what he's doing at Carepool and what Carepool is, and kind of his future plans and where he's come since October. So kind of a little selfish. I also want to get an update. So Josh, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin. Appreciate it. Let me see here. I'll just share my screen, right? And then go to present. All right, yes, so thanks for the introduction. Yes, I'm Josh Massey. I'm the founder and CEO of Carepool, where we're creating independence by the way of mobility. Essentially, just to give you a little background, yeah, I did pitch the first Disability Tech Fest in Cincinnati, and really what it comes down to is we created a platform that is Uber for people with disabilities and the aging population. I had a background in technology and software engineering, and decided to get into the rideshare world. Basically, Wisconsin passed the laws first. I had this idea about matching drivers and customers, and after I'd created it, DHS had approached me and said, "Hey, we really need something just like this for this population," and so I was engaged, and ever since I've been really enjoying the work that I've been doing with the disabled population. And so so we're so we're a rideshare technology platform. Really, we automate and pre-book rides. We keep using that Uber model where the drivers are independents and they have their own vehicles. But we're really focused on kind of healthcare backgrounds for the drivers, creating training and documentation around what they might encounter with different customers. And our software has the ability to document specifications for each individual. So when the driver comes, it's not just they're coming not knowing what's happening. They can see the profile of the individual. They can see if there's any specifications that they need to know, or any emergency type contacts. So we kind of we match drivers with riders on an ongoing basis and really try to create those relationships. And we're finding that that's really helping people, especially some of the individuals on the autism spectrum. They're kind of matching with these drivers, and instead of having maybe a longer ride home and a bus with many people, if they're only in a vehicle with a driver, 1 or 2 people, they're kind of coming out of their shell a little bit. They're able to kind of be more social, and even when they're coming home, they're finding that they have they're getting home earlier, and really saving them a lot of time and giving them more of that feeling of independence. So with this today, I'm really looking for any advice. I mean, really just I'm looking for other technologies to kind of combine with our platform in the next phase. And so other assistive technologies and that sort of thing. Not really sure what it's going to bring yet, but we're so far so good on our platform. So what we do on our platform, it allows everyone involved. So whether it's a care manager, a parent or a guardian, or the individual themselves, we allow everybody on the platform to be able to book, track, and manage different rides. And so really it's just similar. It is a web app, so you can use it on any phone or any computer, not a native app. So it's just a little bit easier for everyone to access as long as they have internet access. It's just a web booking platform. So similar to Expedia or how you might book a hotel. We're really similar to that, but then we're really matching the care providers with the riders and the drivers, and really creating notifications for everybody along the way of the process, and that's the tracking process. So what we created in our software is the drivers hit a button once they have made their previous drop off, or they're on the way towards the individual. They hit a button and it sends them a text message to all people involved saying, "Hey, your ride's on the way. It's about 9 minutes away." And then, the driver shows up and they can see who the driver is, the license plate, the vehicle, and the name of the person. So right now we're in Wisconsin. We're based only in Wisconsin right now. We are looking to expand, but we're really looking to expand based on the managed care model. So and also the self-direction model. So we built it for both sides. So whether it's a larger MCO family care model and solution, then the care managers have the ability to manage up to if there are 30 individuals underneath them, and then they're able to go in and book rides, but they're also able to authorize rides for that individual. So then that individual could then go and book their own rides next stage. So we're piloting that. The pilot that we did originally, we ended up doing about double the revenue we thought. And that was our first customer, Inclusa, asking us to go to La Crosse, Wisconsin, which was a troubled area for them. Excuse me. And so we launched there and had some really good success. We've given over 3,000 rides in that area. Our initial numbers and everything based on the surveys, I guess, from the customers, they're giving us really close, 9.5, and a lot of the this is kind of just like being on time, just the respect from the driver, the cleanliness of the vehicles, the overall transportation situation. They did a survey of the old transportation as well as us, and we're looking at the old transportation being around about 7 out of 10, and we're really bumping up in the 9s. So really improving that model. And that's with the managed care inclusive, and then there's the self-direction side. So this is really built just for the individuals to be able to book rides themselves. And really, like I said before, it's a web scheduling, it's just booking it right through. It shows you the pickup drop off, what's the price going to be, how long's the mileage, and again, text notifications throughout. So one saying they're on their way, or it estimates on the calendar, or I guess the map rather, how far away they are. And then the other one just says, hey, I've arrived. And then the next thing, right through the software, they have the ability to make a phone call to the individual. They just click on the phone, the driver. It'll call to the number listed, but it won't share personal information. It just kind of redirects through Twilio, and you have direct communication with the driver and customer, kind of cutting out that whole dispatch scenario that just doesn't seem to work for anybody. And this is kind of the model over here. You can see if I was a care manager, I'd be logging in, I'd search under my passenger's name, and I'd be able to go and see, okay, I have a pending authorization I have to approve, go to schedule the next ride, but you can see where the risk rider was, kind of the units they have left, and if they need more authorizations, that sort of thing. But so we are interested in doing a Midwest expansion, as we're kind of on about a year plan here in Wisconsin, but we think by Q4 we're looking to expand to other states in the Midwest and looking to understand different states' landscape. And kind of so far we feel that a lot of the states just have a lack of infrastructure overall, and that it's kind of similar issues, and people are starting to realize that rideshare could be a good gap, filling the gap in a lot of places, and there are competitors out there that are doing similar things. But yeah, a lot of it's just that real-time booking versus the pre-booked, as well as not necessarily having drivers with the ability to understand the customer. And actually, so we're looking at that for disability training. So I guess, is there any if anyone has suggestions? I know there's some types of like sensitivity training, or there's other just types of training out there. But if anyone has suggestions on what might be good for our drivers to get them understanding, if they're not coming from the medical world, some of them are not. So many of them are, but the other ones we're training up, and so we're just really looking for suggestions. And right now we're starting off, it's more just SUVs, sedans, and we're moving towards the accessible vehicle side. Our state does have some grants, so we're hopeful that we're going to get some vehicles in our bigger markets soon. And then we're just kind of thinking of other ways to create supply. So other ideas would be great, but we've really been trying to reach out to the community, saying who might have just like a vehicle that's wheelchair accessible, that maybe would like to help others and monetize that a little bit outside of the times they're using it. Maybe it's not one of their family members driving it. Maybe it's a neighbor, or maybe it's, so yeah, we're just trying to figure out different ways of creating supply and creating awareness. So again, with our work with the state of Wisconsin, we've now kind of gotten to the point where, I think the customer side, everyone's really aware. It's just more about, this is a different driver. It's not your normal Uber driver. It's not your normal taxi driver. How do we create awareness, and what are good ways of doing so? So I'm really working on that right now, of creating more supply on the driver's side. So yeah, like I said, we're wondering if there's other areas that people are wondering, need consulting in. I know I was asked about Ohio before. We're looking at, Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota. So we're not sure we're going to go yet next, but we're kind of planning that towards the end of the year. We finally are, in the process of closing some investment that will allow us to expand. So we're just in that process right now. But yeah, I'd love for anybody to, reach out with other comments or questions, and you can always email me here. But yeah, thank you very much for listening, and I'd love to answer questions.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. So I did throw a link to your website. So for those of you that are on and you want to go figure out how to get in touch with him, his email address is on there, but also threw a link to the website in there. One of the questions, we've got somebody saying, come to South Dakota. There you go. So one of the questions that I had is, how are you guys sourcing the drivers? Are you leveraging Lyft and Uber drivers and kind of going that direction, or are you just truly sourcing these by yourself?
Yeah, so it's a combination of multiple things so far, and we're finding that there are a lot of drivers that that may already do Lyft and Uber that could be someone from the medical field that just kind of, they get a little bit burned out from being full time in the medical field, and so they start driving part time, and maybe they even take off a little of that time. So we're finding a few that already are drivers, that are already out there in that regard, but it's just really a lot of boots on the ground and networking for the most part. So we'll start in that county, and we'll post the job all over the place, and just Indeed.com, we're getting a lot of people with care type worker background, and so yeah, so far so good as far as kind of multifaceted, posting the jobs, meeting people on the ground, networking with the best drivers you meet, and then kind of growing organically from there. And then I think the next stage is just creating more awareness. We're working on a social media campaign actually this afternoon that'll be specific to drivers. So combination of.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, if anybody has questions, throw it in there. Otherwise I'll monopolize all of the questions because I've got another one. So yeah, throw it in the chat box if you guys have any questions. And I hate it when that happens, but I just completely spaced what my question was. Oh, I know what it is. It's more of a comment and slash question. So one of the ways that makes, I think that you guys are a little different than any of these other rideshare platforms, because Uber has an accessibility and Lyft, they both have accessibility features. But one of the ways that I think that you guys are really different is this interface with the individual service coordinator and their waiver plan, correct? Where you are actually tracking in real time the number of transportation units that the individual has used, has left. Is that correct? And then notifying the service coordinator if there are insufficient authorizations for upcoming travel needs.
Yeah, so there a lot of times the care managers end up having to book the rides themselves, and there's just a lot of back and forth administration process. And so yeah, we're allowing them to create the inventory right through the software, and then they are letting certain individuals just book themselves. So really just trying to streamline the process, give people more independence so that they're not always reliant on a care manager to do a booking. And just kind of that independence level has been changing people. I guess just overall their satisfaction with how the process works, and then cutting out the other middleman of dispatch, and kind of, if they have an issue, they can call the driver directly, or they can communicate directly. So that's one of the ways. And then I guess the other big difference is that we're really creating our own. We're kind of like, we're monitoring the driver pool so that we can know that everyone involved is really opting in to deal with this sector. So like a lot of people, a lot of other competitors are using Lyft to deliver. So it's still just a Lyft driver, whoever gets that ride shows up they don't really know what's going to happen next. And so I guess the other biggest thing is just the model of pre-booked rides, one driver kind of matching with that ride, whether it's a shared ride of multiple people going to work. But either way, it's matching the pre-booked rides and not just doing like the real time, hitting the button, seeing what happens. It's all pre-booked.
Okay, very neat. Well, so do you guys have any plans? So I'm just trying to think this through in my mind. An individual is using this. The team has obviously had to go through the whole process of evaluating, can the individual self-book, can that kind of thing. I'm assuming that there will probably be some situations where they would love for that individual to be able to self-book to get themselves to store, work, whatever it is, but probably certain places, and there's maybe some other places that they would want to know about if the individual goes to some place that's not in a typical routine for them. Is that where those alerts come in that you guys have built in? So if they book, hey, I want to go to the bar down this, across town or whatever. I mean, that's totally fine. But as an example, those are some of the alerts that would be pushed out to the team if and when those kinds of rides are booked.
Yeah, we're still working through how that part goes. We don't have any flags for different types of rides. So far, they know that there's certain people that they just probably this won't work with, but there's certain people that they know it will. So we're trying it with those individuals that they know would just be able to handle it and seeing what happens. We don't know. I mean, I think there will be cases where people, because there's already cases where they like to change their rides a lot, or they like to try to, because it's not a taxi, they think that they have more control over it because they know the driver and like, hey, sorry, I want to be later today, or they think they can change. So yeah, so it's definitely it's something we're testing out, and we're kind of testing it to the point where right now it takes a while for the authorizations to be created. So there's always this delay. So it seems like by the time that the care manager works with their individual, then they authorize the ride. It has to go into their system, then it has to be authorized, and it has to spit out the form, and it takes at least 48 hours. So then by the time we get a lot of rides, they seem like they're last minute, but really they were booked 4 days ago or 3 days ago. And then so we're trying to figure out, okay, can we streamline the process and partner enough where we're actually booking the rides before the authorization? They're already coming out to our marketplace of drivers. Because really the drivers only see the rides if they have calendar availability. So 48 hours before the rides come through, then a driver will accept. By the time the authorization comes through, we already know we have a driver. And if we don't have a driver, if there's some reason there's no one available for that time, then they know they can reach out to other transportation providers. So we're still working through the process and testing a lot of different things.
So Carepool would have to be a certified transportation provider in whichever state you want to enter, correct? Because you would be billing for the transportation service authorization.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So we're dealing with all the post-paid, Medicaid authorizations for the most part.
Okay, and, got it.
Yep. So we're vendors at the state and throughout. So we'll have to do that wherever else we go next.
Cool. We've got another comment saying, "Come to Ohio." So it looks like South Dakota and Ohio.
Sounds good.
And then we actually have another question: is a ride, and you may have answered this question, is a ride cost structured in the same way as Uber or Lyft, or alternative paid through a state services? So yeah, it would be paid through.
Yep. Yeah, it's paid through state services. Yeah, and we're, the Uber and Lyft model, we're still trying to kind of help with that because they haven't really figured out how to price it correctly yet. And they're losing a lot of money, but just the drivers themselves, like hearing from it, like if they drive Uber and Lyft and they're not in a really big city where it's just nonstop ride after ride after ride, it's pretty tough for them to make ends meet these days. It's just the way they priced it and how low everything is, and then the big chunk they take. So we're charging, kind of more in the realm of a specialized transit, but we're more affordable there. So we'd be kind of in the range of a taxi a lot of times, but it could be less, it could be more, depending on the county. We need to price it correctly so our drivers can make a livable wage. And that's what we're trying to figure out, is that happy medium of what's the best pricing and how do we create efficiencies with shared rides across multiple systems, whether it's just, not just one MCO or just the individual, but, kind of how do we get all these systems to work together? And then, the different budgets can also work together and create efficiencies and create savings there. But yeah, it's going to be an ongoing process to figure out the pricing.
I would imagine. Hey, one idea that just popped into my mind is, there's a lot of DSPs out there that may work some kind of broken shifts that are, super tough for providers to fill. Who wants to come in and work, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then have 2 hours off and then work, 10 to 3 p. But maybe this will be a way to fill in those gaps where those providers could use those staff, those downtimes to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're even trying to, like there's certain hours, like everybody knows there is certain hours that are downtime, and that happens with a lot of the transportation companies as well as I think like other care workers. But yeah, we've been kind of guiding our customers to say, hey, if you have appointments that are one-offs that are not like reoccurring type of needs, if you can push those towards the middle of the day, you're going to have much easier chance of getting rides taken care of. And so we're trying to actually work with them to figure out the timing and yeah, like you're saying, like there's other options on the downtime of how to keep people busy. So working on that.
Yeah, good. Well, you've come a long way. This is exciting to hear. I know that this was a big hit in Cincinnati when you talked about it at Tech Fest. So I appreciate you coming back on and talking about this again. We've got this recorded, so maybe most of the people will be watching this on YouTube here soon. So thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, yeah. If you guys have any questions for Josh, go ahead and continue to throw them in the chat box if you think of something after. But we'll move on to our next presenter, Tom Shovelton. I always want to say Shovelton, but Tom is with Connective Voice. He's been pretty involved with some of the Tech Fest that I'm doing, so I felt like this would be a good way to get his company out there and let you guys see what they're doing. Well, I'm not going to steal your thunder, Tom. I always try to do that, start describing what the presenters are going to present on. So, but I'll stop and throw it over to you, Tom.